I've got a question for you, James.
Sure.
Yeah, you and old Frankie Lampard there. It's that the game against Liverpool where he had his little outburst on the touchline. That pretty much sealed the decree Nisi for you two, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, yeah. It was very disrespectful the way he spoke to Klopp. There was a statement he made. He goes, "You won one league and now you give it a big one." Like he hasn't won it. Like he's won a league before. Frank Lampard's never won a league as a manager in his life, so I don't know what he's talking about.
See, I knew he was no good for you, girl. I knew he was no good for you. You got to remember that when he was a Chelsea player, it was him and all that big rivalry between Chelsea and Liverpool and the Benitez years and all those games that Chelsea and Liverpool had, playing each other 6 or 7 times a season in the Champions League, And because of that history, he was always going to let you down, I'm afraid.
You're all about to witness a monumental throwdown.
Hello everyone and welcome to the last episode in this season of FPL Bros. I hope everyone is doing well out there. I'd just like to say that I'm at peace with being known as the Black David Mitchell. Nobody else has taken that title, so I might as well have it, and it doesn't bother me. I think it fits quite well. How are you doing, James? James, are you there? James, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. We couldn't hear you for a few minutes.
My mum called mid podcast.
Okay.
Talk about authenticity.
Yeah. I'll say that again. How are you doing, James?
Oh yeah, I'm good. I say when we got back from lockdown, it became very difficult. Had bad results, but keep striving.
Yeah. I didn't start the lockdown period as well as I liked. I always leave it on till the last minute to do my team, and I actually wanted to use the unlimited transfers, and I was doing that, and then I had a work call, and the work call took about an hour, and obviously by the time I was done, the deadline had gone, and I didn't do too badly, but I think I got a red arrow, and I'll never really recover from that. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I'm convinced if it hadn't been for that work call, I would have done a hell of a lot better than I actually did. But it's a game. You win some, you lose some.
You're all about to witness a monumental throwdown.
Before we get into it this week, I just also wanted to say one thing. Some people might be sitting there listening to this or on YouTube or wherever, which is fine, and think to themselves, this is a good pod and all the rest of it. Thank you. But why should I listen to what any of you guys have to say about FPL? Here's why. Last season, Derek finished in the top 3,000. Yeah. And that's how good he is. And it wasn't a fluke he finished that way either. He used all his chips. He targeted the double game weeks. He checked the stats, see who was playing well. And he plays the game like a pro, really. So I know he's not with us this episode, but Derek knows what he's talking about. So that's why you should listen to us. Anyway, on with the show. Did you want to start us off with anything in particular?
I don't know what I'm talking about. No, I'm joking. No, but what I would say is that I watch football. I watch it religiously. And if you watch it more religiously than me, then you're a weirdo.
Ooh. Yeah, you probably do watch a lot of football, actually.
Yeah. But okay. First thing I'm going to say to you, first one I'm going to open up with is okay, I was going to get a bit off FPL.
All right then.
Do you feel the top 4 are the deserved top 4? So here's the question: do you think City, United, and Chelsea had a good season?
Said the Liverpool fan.
Yeah. It's they didn't.
Okay, I don't think City had a good season by their standards, but this is something that I mentioned in several episodes before. They didn't look like themselves, the same team that won the Premier League last season. I think it's interesting, really, because there's always a lot of rah-rah talk All right. First of all, I'd like to say that yes, I do think Kevin De Bruyne is a fantastic footballer, but for most of last season, Man City didn't have him, and they won the league. They've had him pretty much all of this season, and they didn't win the league. So it's not just about him being a good footballer. So in terms of Chelsea, I think they surprised everybody. But the fact is, they're a team with lots of finances behind them. And the sale of Hazard helped because they could afford to pay the money and wages of people to replace him. I mean, I'm still not 100% sold on Frank Lampard. But if you've got the core of good players there and you can inspire them, then you can go on to do good things. And it was just a case of that. At the end of the day, they're a big team now. They've got big, expensive players. And so they should be finishing in the top four most of the time. With Man United, I think the end of the season came at the right time for them. Okay, here's something that people don't really realise about lockdown period for Man United. They had an incredibly easy run of games, and also Rashford came back for them as well. If the season had gone out and had it normally, without the suspension, they would not be finishing in the top four. And we've been here before, because when Solskjaer first took over, Man United had a run of 10 games where they only played one top 6 team. I don't know if you remember this. This is going back nearly 2 years. Yeah. So Mourinho got sacked, and Mourinho got sacked after Man United went to Liverpool and lost, I think, 3-1. Big surprise. He was never going to win that game. That's why they waited until that game to sack him. Because after that game, 10 games where they only played one top 6 team. So effectively 9 winnable games. And the one top 6 team they did play was Spurs, and they actually won that game. It was a big surprise. Nobody expected to win it. It was a 1-0 win. I think Pogba scored a world-class goal from outside of the area, and they surprisingly won that game. Shocked everyone. So those 10 games go, and Solskjaer's picking up mad points. Pogba's scoring goals, Rashford's scoring goals, and everybody's going on about how Ollie's at the wheel. Do you remember that?
I remember it very well.
Yeah, and then the realness kicked in, didn't it? The realness kicked in, and Man United finished that season on an incredibly bad form with an incredibly bad run of games. So I'll just quickly let me just summarize it. Man United are flat track bullies, and if you give them a run of easy games, sure they'll climb the table, but then when they have to do some real football, it gets very tough for them.
Agreed. But the thing is, I feel like since lockdown, they actually have been playing a bit of real football, I would say. But the main question to ask is, throughout this season, have they been the third best team in the league?
No.
And that's not fair. The fact it's harsh, but for them to get the Champions League spot over Leicester, who I do believe has been the third best team in the league this season, it just shows how hard it can be.
Yeah, yes. But I think a big part of that comes down to injuries. If the league had carried on how it was supposed to, like I said, Man United would have been without Rashford, for example. Okay, Leicester lost Pereira, but they still had Chilwell. They still had Maddison. I think they would have finished the season a lot stronger than they would have done. But that's the way the cookie crumbles. The fact is, with Man United, if the run of good games come at the right time, they can get something out of it. And they came at the right time for them. That's all I'm going to say.
You're all about to witness a monumental throwdown.
Bringing it back to FPL slightly, people probably... What was that?
Bruno, like he's been like, in terms of FPL, he's been racking up points.
Yeah, no, he has been doing very well. I mean, the thing about Bruno, as far as FPL goes, that he was reliable, which is what you want. You want to be able to have someone that you can put the armband on, because they're going to get you 6 or 7 points, which is better than 2 or 3 or 1 point. You know. Yeah. Briefly, I think people are going to want to know how we finished. So I finished with an overall rank of, I finished in the top 120,000. That's how I did. I won the FPL league, but I didn't win much else. Really. I won a couple of other mini leagues as well. But 120,000 or thereabouts. I was 33,000 last year, so I'm a bit disappointed with that. wanted to break into the top 100,000. I'm pretty certain I would have done if it hadn't been for that flipping work call. Do you know off the top of your head where you finished, or shall I find out?
Oh, I can see here that I finished. Okay, I'm just trying to gain. This can't be true.
Mm.
It sounds like it's like in the 2 millions. Yeah, it is. I'm almost 3 million.
Okay, yeah, let's have a look here.
How can it be that different?
What's the name of your team again?
Divock.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, okay. So you finished
I mean,
just inside the top 3 million.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you did very well. You scored 77 points the last game week of the season, which was pretty decent. Do you want to talk us through that or not at all?
No, I'm ready to talk through that, definitely.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. If for anybody who's curious, James captained Aubameyang. It couldn't have gone much better. Well, he could have done, I suppose, if he captained De Bruyne, but captain Aubameyang was still a good move. So you had De Bruyne and Grealish and Aubameyang bringing in most of the points for you. Well played.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
I risked it.
Yeah.
Because I used my wild card in the last week, so
No, you might as well, because you've got nothing to lose by not using it. I finished with 80, but I made 5 transfers, so that's 80 minus 12 points, which was actually 68. Again, I had De Bruyne, but I captained Kane, and I honestly thought he was going to go nuts because he'd scored 4 goals in his last 2 games. And then Williams, I can't remember, or it might even have been a penalty.
No, I mean, couldn't you play a free hit instead of spending the money on
No,
the
I'd already played my free hit.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'd already used my free hit. I decided to use it in Game Week 36 Plus because I just thought the fixtures looked good.
Wasted my free hit.
I used it in a week that Chelsea were playing Sheffield United, Man City were playing Brighton, and who else was I targeting? Oh yeah, Man United playing Southampton. So I thought if I just get 3 from each of those teams and then 2 other people to make up the 11, I'll score pretty well. Of course, Chelsea were abysmal. They actually lost. Oh no, wait, what am I looking at here? Is that the game they lost 3-0? No.
Well, quick question. Let's talk about Southampton.
Let's talk about Southampton.
Yeah, didn't they lose 8 or 9-0?
Yes, they lost 9-0 to Leicester. So go on, what did you want to say?
I was almost certain at that point that Southampton would go down.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to have Danny Ings as doing as well as he did, he became so expensive that I stopped purchasing him. Now, I didn't think about purchasing him. It wasn't on my mind.
Mm-hmm.
But the way they turned that around is amazing.
I see. This is the thing. I don't think they had to do much turning around. I actually said this at the time that Southampton were not as bad as that result suggested. You know, and there was a point in the game where they had 2 very good attempts on goal, and if they had gone in, the game would not have ended 9-0. I honestly think that result was a blip. Everybody was so surprised that Southampton did well, but I wasn't. Because I knew their players were much better than that. Sometimes teams just play badly. Yeah. And Ralph Hasenhüttl is a good manager. His high pressing, high energy style of play where they press from the front. I think it's filtering down to the team now. I think they're able to follow his instructions. And also, Southampton have struggled when Nathan Redmond hasn't been playing. But when he plays, he supplies the crosses and the assists to Danny Ings, and suddenly you're playing a really dangerous team. They've got quality throughout that team. Yeah, so, because do you remember, after that game, I think Southampton went to play Man City, and everybody was like, oh, you've got to get Man City players in and captain them. And I was like, yeah, Man City are probably going to win. They're not going to thrash Southampton. And lo and behold, it was 3-1. And that game was actually 1-0 for a long time. And Man City only won it because they scored 2 goals towards the end of the second half. I think I'm probably wrong.
Twice.
So Southampton, it was a big result. But again, people should see things in context. I'm always saying this: football does not happen in a vacuum. Okay. if a manager sees his team getting thrashed, he's going to do something about it. If he's a good manager, he's going to change things around. He's going to work on defending better. He's going to work on marking better, defending set pieces better. He's going to work on the defense being more disciplined, keeping their lines better, all that kind of thing. So just because a team gets thrashed one week doesn't mean if they've got a good manager and decent players, they're going to get thrashed every week, because the manager will also know, oh, they conceded X amount of chances, X amount of big shots in the box. They had an XGA of 5 or something. Managers see this stuff as well. We all sit here and look at statistics and think like football teams can't do anything to change them. They try to change their statistics all the time. So if there was anything to take away from that game and this season in particular, don't look at results and think that it's always going to be like that, because football doesn't happen in a vacuum, and players and managers are going to react to things.
You're all about to witness a monumental throwdown.
Like, I've been paying attention, yeah, and I know Lampard's character very well. I remember the way he used to play. He used to take like 10 shots a game from outside the box, just shooting all the time, missing, and no one will complain to him, and you just ignore everyone and keep shooting. That was his game. From West Ham, he was doing that when he played for West Ham. So as a manager, what I noticed is that he makes the players have a go more, and that's really good for the young players because it starts to get them confidence. And you see Pulisic start playing like Hazard now, and they look good. But I just cannot see him as a good defensive manager. So once those floodgates open, they get in a hiding. Man United beat them 5-0 at the start of the season.
4.
4, okay. Well, it was a hiding. And when they played against Liverpool the other day, even though Liverpool already won the league, like, it was just that the goals they let in were just a joke. So now they're talking about getting rid of Kepa and getting someone else.
Yeah, I think that's a shame. Kepa's a young keeper, and this is not going to help his confidence. The pressure wasn't it? The most expensive goalkeeper in the world. It wasn't his fault that they paid so much for him, but he couldn't live up to it, could he?
Manager too.
Well, I don't know. See, this is a funny thing about football. Sometimes people think having a legend for you as a player, as a manager, is always a way to go.
No, I'm saying Kepa as a manager.
No, I'm talking about Frank. Wait, you're talking about Kepa as a manager?
He's the manager. He was a manager before.
Kepa?
Yeah, when Sarri tried to take him off.
Oh, right. Yes, okay. That went right over my head. Very good. Very good.
Yeah, and I think Lampard's marked him because of that. So Lampard, I think he seems like the type of dude that he wants his authority to stay no matter what. That's a very important thing to him.
Well, I don't know any manager who's not like that. I think what boosts Lampard is the fact that he has experience of playing in the Premier League and playing to a very high standard. Not every manager has that, though. So I think for him, I think that's why he thinks people should listen to him more than anybody else. Yeah. Look, I played in this league. I've won in this league. I know what it's all about. And it wasn't that long ago that I did it either. So I think that's where he gets his authority from, his confidence from. And it's very stark. But again, we'll just have to see how it goes. Because once again, Chelsea are spending the money. You can't always spend your way out of trouble. Although somebody spent their way out of trouble a couple of seasons ago. Who was it now? When they paid a lot of money for a defender and a goalkeeper. I can't think.
Man City.
Anyway.
You're all about to witness a monumental throwdown.
Yeah, thoughts for the coming season. It looks like, unless anything happens, it's going to start on September the 12th. Some people have pointed out that if Man United make it all the way to the Europa League final, it gives them 2 weeks before they have to start the next season again. But I don't see what the big deal is, because over lockdown they had like about 2 months off, which is the same as what you get when the league finishes. Finishes in May, and then you start again in August, give or take a couple of weeks. So they've had their rest. It's just they didn't have it over the summer. So we might be starting again on the 12th of September. Presumably the FPL game will be starting again as well. And they normally start maybe 2 or 3 weeks before the league starts. Usually by the time the fixtures come out, game has already started and you can start picking players. So have you got any thoughts about what the game's going to look like next season in terms of what players you might have your eye on?
The thing is, I think, as I've learned through this FPL and through previous FPLs there, is that it's very important to understand who's playing well from the smaller teams. This season, no one really knew what to expect from Sheffield United. Yeah. And people who have Sheffield United players in their teams got a lot of points. I'll say next season, everyone's going to be watching Wolves players. No, not also Leeds. Wolves, I remember people advising me to put Ruben Neves in my team all the time. Saying that guy's amazing. Put Neves in there, Neves in there. Yeah. I think Leeds are going to be a team to be reckoned with. I don't see them down.
Well, you see, you have to be careful because a lot of teams which are impressive in the Championship have been, absolutely obliterated when they come to the Premier League. Norwich were absolutely amazing when they won the Championship and came up. They came up top of the Championship, remember? Yeah, scoring so many goals. Yeah, but it all turned to crap quite quickly in the Premier League. But yes, there will be some players at Leeds worth looking out on, definitely. I hear that they've got one or two defenders who play in midfield. They've got one or two people who play literally all over the park as well. If they start the season with a good run of games, might be worth a look.
You're all about to witness a monumental throwdown.
In terms of this season, who would you say was the best player for FPL for this season, in your opinion?
I'm going to stick to a player that I had that served me very well. Aubameyang, 100%.
Yeah.
What about yourself?
The best player. It depends. Different people did the business at different times of the season. I was very happy that I got hold of John Lundstrom.
Who's your best midfielder, your best goalkeeper, your best striker, and your best defender?
All right, then. Best goalkeeper, I'm just going to go with Pope. Simple as that. I remember I held on to him when he started playing badly. I shipped him out, and then he started playing well again, and I thought, let me just get him back in, and then I never looked back. Best defender, Trent. There's just no debate. He's probably going to be 8 million next season. So, you have to think very carefully about how you're going to spend your money if you get him in. Best midfielder, for me, obviously there was obvious big hitters like Salah, De Bruyne, Mane, Fernandes, Son did well, Pulisic had a decent season. But I'm going to go with Adama Traore simply because I believed in him so much and eventually he came good. And I was so happy when I had him in my team and nobody else had him in their team, and I got like 10 points. I think one game week he helped me get like 91 points, and I really shot up the rankings because nobody else had him. So Traore for me, I think there's a lot more to see from him, but Santos doesn't seem to see him as a regular in the team quite just yet. But to be fair to Wolves, they've been playing football for more than a year now because they started in July last season. And they're still in the Europa League. So they play a lot of games. So, Santos is going to have to do some moving around. And then strikers, again, you've got the usual big hitters, Aubameyang. Kane had a quiet season for most of the season. Jimenez had some decent weeks. Vardy, what can you say about him? Golden Boot winner. He obviously had some decent weeks as well. Rashford chipped in, and Ings also had some very good weeks. But again, for me personally, Mason Greenwood gets the vote again because I've always believed in that kid. And when I realised that he was going to start playing him more often, I thought, let me get him in. And because he was so cheap, he allowed me to spend a lot of money in the rest of my team. People, this game is simple, yeah? If there's a really good player and he comes in cheap, like Mason Greenwood or Todd Cantwell, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Pick up the cheap player and then spend the money somewhere else. It doesn't happen very often. If a cheap player comes up and they're good, just pick them. Don't think about it. Don't look at the price and think, oh, he must be bad. If they're playing well, they're scoring points, get in the cheap player. So Greenwood for me. So now your turn. Best goalkeeper.
Best goalkeeper. I'm going to go with Henderson. Yeah. I kind of wish I got him earlier on in the season because I don't know if it's the fence that does it for him or if it's just him, but he just had a terrific season and he was a very, very stable guy to have behind the sticks. I would never have guessed. So I'm not going to act like I'm some genius. I thought, oh, I should have done that at the start. I didn't. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know his background. I knew nothing about him. But I just learned about him throughout the season. Pope was good, obviously. He has honourable mention, but I'm going to stick with Henderson. Defenders, I'm going to have to go with Alexander-Arnold as well. I definitely have to agree with that. He's been like, just when he was getting all the assists at the start of the season, and then just when you thought, okay, this he's all assisted out. I don't know if he's going to do any more assists. He does more assists, and he adds goals to his game. He started scoring that free kicks. He was doing the same free kicks, the same place, that same shot, but he was just slotting them in so well. So I think he's only going to get better. So that guy's a scary guy to watch out for. Midfielders, there's two people. It's between Kevin De Bruyne or Bruno Fernandes.
Oh my gosh, I was so sure you were going to say Jack Grealish.
No way. No way. Jack Grealish is a good player, but he's not going to get you points. You know what I mean? It's like, you know what I mean? Bruno Fernandes and Kevin De Bruyne are getting you points. It's what it is. They don't get you points one week. You don't sell them. You keep holding them. They'll get you points next week. They're just people that you can leave in your team and not worry about your team and move on and do other things because they're going to get you points. So the two of them, the only problem is that they had the season where they haven't really got injured, which is really good. Like if one of those two get injured, you've got a problem in your hands. And De Bruyne used to be injury prone, but it seems this season he hasn't been at all. So let's see how he's like next season. I think that whoever gets him next season as well, they got a good buy. Striker, I've already said Aubameyang, but my other honourable mention is going to go to Danny Ings, because he's just been so prolific this season. Like it's amazing what he's done. I would never have picked Greenwood. I just didn't believe in him. And the reason why I didn't believe in him is because I feel the Premier League, the last few years, has been such a difficult thing for a youngster to step up to be able to handle the Premier League. The person who broke that...
You just mentioned one, though, didn't you?
Who?
Trent Alexander-Arnold.
Yeah, but Trent Alexander-Arnold and Rashford, yeah, they've been one out of how many? That people like them, that they don't come along often. That it's just one or two people that break through. This season there's been a lot of youngsters that have broken through, and that is rare. That's something different. Maybe that there's a change in the guard, but you know what I mean? It's like...
Yeah, but so basically your argument is that sometimes a youngster breaks through and sometimes they don't. What is it about Greenwood that said to you he's not one of the youngsters who's going to make it?
That he said that he's going to or he's not going to.
You said you didn't believe him at the beginning, so there must have been something about him that made you think he's not one of the youngsters who's going to make it, and I want to know what that is.
So when Man United weren't playing well and they weren't scoring, they couldn't find a goal for the life of them through Martial, I didn't see Greenwood as the guy that's going to step up and start scoring. When I see that people like Jesse Lingard playing so badly, I don't think the team can look to a youngster to do well.
I just want to say something really quick about Jesse Lingard. You know, somebody actually had a bet on that before the season ended, Jesse Lingard was going to get a goal and an assist. And he nearly lost that bet, didn't he? Because Jesse Lingard's goal, did it come like in the 96th minute of the last game of the season?
Yeah.
Just imagine you made that bet and you thinking, oh, what was I thinking? And then he scores literally last kick of the season.
That's good money.
Sorry, go on.
No, it's true. Jesse Lingard, it's almost sad, his decline. Also, like I look at people like Adnan Januzaj, I look at all these guys, these Manchester United guys that just don't make it. So I got to the point where I just stopped believing in their youth at all. I stopped believing in their youth, so that's why I didn't think Greenwood would do what he did. But I feel like this playing without a crowd, I think that's what helped Greenwood, in my opinion, because the games are just like reserve games.
Okay.
You're all about to witness a monumental throwdown.
Alrighty then. Well, I think we can wrap it up there. We've been talking for about half an hour now.
Last thing,
good.
Trending on Twitter, Kasper Schmeichel. They're talking about Kasper Schmeichel going to Manchester United.
Yeah, I mean, why not? I've always rated him, actually, and I was very surprised when Man City let him go.
Same. He had a run of clean sheets with Man City, didn't he? Like about 10 games or something like that. 8-10 games.
Probably. Maybe they just thought he couldn't step it up to the next level, which was Champions League. But to me, he just seemed like a good goalkeeper. So I'm glad he's got a Premier League winners medal as well. So good on him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's interesting. I didn't see that one. If he does go to Man United, though, his price is going to go up. At the end of the day, when players go to a top six team, it automatically adds about another maybe 2 or 3 million to their price in this game. Especially if they go to Man United, because about half the people who play FPL are Man United fans, so their players always get brought in like they're millions. Yeah. Oh, one more thing. Actually, I just wanted to say Pepe was a massive disappointment for me. But as I mentioned before to Jamie, I think on the WhatsApp, because of that, he's going to be cheaper next season, and that's when he might finally start to bang. You remember all the torture Pepe was putting me through at the beginning of the season? I
Yeah,
was
but
like, I believe in this kid. He's gonna do it. He's gonna do it for me.
it looked like it was impossible.
9 million, man. 9.5 million.
I've seen a few glimpses of him that shows that he has ability, and I think
Yeah,
next season he'll come of age.
he should. Did you see his disallowed goal in the FA Cup final?
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Was there anyone who was a disappointment for you, or not really?
Disappointment, the biggest disappointment for me. So Pepe is obviously a disappointment. The other disappointment I would say was, who would I say disappointment? I would say the Bournemouth strikers. They usually rack up a lot of points for me, Callum Wilson and Josh King.
Yeah.
But they were just really disappointing this season.
They were.
Who else? No one else. I didn't believe in the Pookie party. I never believed in the Pookie party. And as you can see, within reason.
Yeah. Fair enough.
These other teams are going down again? Watford. Oh, yeah. The sacking of Pearson was one that, for me, I just thought it was just terrible.
Yes, I mean, the thing is, they were 17th at the time they sacked him, and they just sort of believed in the guy because again, I think it was West Ham who you thrashed them 4-0, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but that means he's going to learn from that thrashing, same way Southampton learned from their thrashing. Same way, even the Bournemouth were taking thrashes at the beginning of the lockdown period, their defence actually tightened up a little bit towards the end.
Yeah.
Aston Villa's defence tightened up incredibly. If they had not tightened up their defence, they would have gone down. I mean, a lot of people talk about that goal which went over the line from Sheffield Wednesday United that never got given, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it didn't get given, but still, who would have known how that game would have gone, even if it had gotten given? You know, Aston Villa as a team, they actually improved as the season went on, particularly over lockdown period. So, woulda, shoulda, coulda. Who knows what would happen? Yeah. And the end of the day, you still got to do all the hard work. So I don't like to dwell on these things too much. But anyway, sorry, go on.
Survive another year.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Yeah.
You're all about to witness a monumental throwdown.
Okay, well, we'll have to call it time there. And have a nice break, everyone who's been listening, whether it's your first episode or whether you've been catching all of them, which I seriously doubt. Thank you so much for tuning in, I should say. Say again?
Yeah. See them in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, so yeah, we'll be back in a few weeks to preview the 2020-2021 season and, discuss what's good, what you think the prices are going to be, whether Martial's going to get reclassified as a striker, and Aubameyang, I think he might get reclassified as a midfielder, because even though he's a striker, Arteta's been playing him as a wide man, same as Salah, hasn't he?
Yeah, but I don't think they're going to keep him as a striker.
Yeah. So, okay then, that's all. That's all from me.
And that's all from me.
Okay, goodbye everyone.